Hey, welcome back. It's Will Fountain and David Tinsley, and this is the series brought to you by Lenders Cooperative. We call it the Novice and the Pro. And so this is officially our third episode. And to start this series, we've been talking a little bit about the SBA program. David, as you all know, runs our SBA LSP operations. And in the first episode, we talked about some of the changes that were made in 2023. And just to kind of recap that, David, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but in essence, the SBA is attempting to make the overall program easier for banks or lenders to participate in, correct? And they're doing so by loosely adopting language that's now being referred to as do what you do. So on your conventional side of the house, you run through a checklist of services, and we just want to make sure that we're following those same guidelines for the SBA. We talked about a little bit about the certification process, because that's been a bit of a thorn, I guess, in people's sides over the last several years, where they would get down the road and then realize that perhaps this business was not in the right location, or there was some information wrong. And now we know that the SBA has adopted some technology to help certify that these businesses are in fact who they say they are, and located in the position or the location that they say they are. During that conversation, you mentioned you're only able to participate in this program as an eligible business. Is that correct?
That's right, yes. So remember that sort of the spirit of that certification process is that you're removing sort of the fear aspect of it that the bank is trying to concern, or the lender is trying to make sure that the business overall is eligible, because you have that language in there that a lender should not submit a loan they know isn't eligible, right? And so part of that eligibility process means that you are taking a look at it, you're doing your due diligence. SBA wanted to remove the fear aspect of losing that guarantee. So part of the eligibility, sort of that whole framework that makes a business eligible, and you're getting a loan that's for an eligible purpose, digging into, okay, so what's an eligible business? So the quick list that you have from SOP is that it has to be an operating business, all right? It's organized for profit, and that it's located in the United States, or technically
Right.
it's charity. Go ahead.
Okay. So no nonprofits, correct?
Correct. No
It's
nonprofits.
got to be a for-profit entity. What was the first one that you said? Oh,
Well,
already established. Is this
right. So
not
it's
for
an
startups?
well, no. So it's not that it's not for startups. It's an operating business. So not so much that it's been created already, although obviously it has to be a legal entity in order to enter into a legal contract, which would include signing a note. So it can be a startup, but to say that it's operating means it's not a passive business. So you want to differentiate between something that's considered an operating company versus something that would be more of a like a holding company, right? So
Okay. All right.
so it can't be, and that's where, and a lot of times the actual language around calling it operating is simply the sentence I just gave you. And if you dig into the Code of Federal Regs, right, that the SOP is built off of, effectively, it's also just one sentence. It is an operating business. And so the way they kind of go into that is there's a whole list of things that they consider ineligible business types. And I can give you some examples there, but one of them is like, it can't be just an investment vehicle. It has to be the whole idea is that you're lending to people that are creating jobs and that are operating businesses in the US. And that's where that
Got
comes
it.
from.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So kind of, you were mentioning earlier, so it's not a holding company, right? We can't get it
Right.
at the holding company level, even if it
Right.
is under the envelope of a holding company. It's got to be at the
Right. So
actual operating level.
yeah, and of course, being SBA, there's a caveat there because it does make legal sense in some cases for you to own. Like for instance, the most common is it's called an eligible passive company. Okay, that is technically a holding company, but there's unique things that are part of that makes it eligible. So thus the eligible passive company title on there. So that the spirit of it is that if you want to buy the building and hold it under a separate legal entity, you can. The reality is you're lending the money to the operating business that's operating in that real estate, right? So you can't.
I,
So of course
yeah, that
SBA
makes
makes
sense.
it. Yeah. So the spirit of it is that I own a business. I'm operating in this building over here. the business is the thing that's repaying the loan, and so that's sort of the spirit of it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And what else? You said no foreign entity, but I mean,
Right. Yeah. So it has to be controlled. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
So look
got to
at
be
it this way. So
majority.
it's yeah. So majority ownership, 51%, owned and operated and controlled, right, by a U.S. citizen. And there's of course, it being SBA, right? There's a caveat. It could be someone who's not a U.S. citizen. The 51% ownership could also be someone who's a lawful permanent resident. But the key is it's a business operating here in the U.S. by people that are living permanently here in the U.S. Right? And if you
Hmm.
view it that way, that makes sense because it's just U.S. program.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I appreciate that little caveat, to be honest with you. All right. So, what else? Small business. We talked at one point. We mentioned like
Right.
33 million or something in revenue. And
Yeah.
is there a employee count, or does it matter?
So there's two ways you can approach it. One of them is like sort of the size standard has to do with depending on your NAICS code, it might be that there's a revenue cap for it, or it could be that there's an employee cap. And that differs per industry. So it might be that there's 500 employees, or it might be that it's 30 million in revenue. But it wouldn't be both. It would be checked one way or the other. And you do that. There's a chart that you go through with SBA. So if you're in this 6-digit NAICS, you go look it up, and here's the top line, and you compare that to the most recent 3 years, or it could be 5 years, depending on how it's set up. But that's one test. And there's also another one called an alternative size standard, which it just breaks down to a tangible net worth and an average net income over the last 2 years. So you would compare those, but they're big numbers. I mean, it's like what we talked about last time. It doesn't feel like a small company. I mean, typically when you hear small business, you think of one location, a handful of people that are working there. That's sort of what it looks like in most cases. By far, the
Yeah.
vast majority of small business customers are under 10 employees.
Yes. So, like everything, it's relative,
Right.
depending on how you
Correct.
look at it. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, typically when you hear small business, you're thinking kind of a mom and pop shop or
Yeah,
a sole
exactly.
proprietor, partners, smaller business. But I mean, small, uh, again, is relative, and
Mhm.
it can be a quite sizable loan for a quite sizable company, and still meet the requirements or the eligibility requirements
That's
for the SBA program. Okay. All right. So that's been helpful. So we know it's got to be an operating business,
mhm.
meaning that it's attempting to produce jobs. It can't be a passive type business where it's just kind of you get the funds and you flow it through this, and then repay it. It's got to be majority owned by a U.S. citizen that lives here permanently. Makes sense because it's in the spirit of SBA creating small business
Mhm.
or creating jobs in the communities. And then uh, it kind of gets a little bit convoluted when we start talking about revenue and employee size, because then you got to
Yeah.
refer back to the chart provided to you. Is that chart in the SOP, or is that somewhere that you go outside of the SOP?
So
Pretty easy to
it's outside of
find.
the SOP, but it's easy to find because you can link to it. And so and there's a way you can do a formal size determination if there's questions. So again, it comes back to SBA is trying to make this straightforward, and that's one of the areas that if you want truly, I want it certified, you are able to do that. There, just remove the doubt. Again, vast majority of the time, it's clearly going to meet that definition. You don't run into many businesses. What ends up happening is very successful businesses probably start out on an SBA loan, and
Yeah.
then they become very successful over time as they grow and grow and grow. At some point, they're no longer eligible for the program. But one of the things that tends to go hand in hand with that is that they no longer have the need for the SBA loan. They become quite bankable
Okay.
conventionally, which yeah, and
Yeah.
so it sort of works out. It works itself out in that sense. The more and more successful business get, it sort of graduates out of this program, and that means they've done their
Right.
job. That was the whole point,
Yeah. It worked as it was designed. Okay. And
right?
I think you made the comment one time, which I really liked, is typically a bank won't lend you the money until you can prove that you don't need the money.
Right,
And so maybe
exactly.
that's where the SBA program comes in is perhaps we won't lend them the money conventionally at this level, but because we have that help from the SBA and some guarantee on the back end, we would engage into a partnership and hopefully help this business flourish to the point where they can bring them over to the conventional side of the house. Okay.
Right.
That's been helpful, and I appreciate your time, David. Hopefully, everyone out there, I'm sure, most folks listen to this have this knowledge already, but hopefully some folks are learning something new because I know I am. Again, the novice and the pro, David Tinsley, Will Fountain, Lenders Cooperative. If there's anything that we can cover on the SBA front while we're kind of in this mode, feel free to shoot us some messages and let us know what you'd like to learn about or what we could discuss. Have a great day.